What if I told you most of your thoughts aren't really yours? That your fears, your dreams, even your outrage have been carefully planted, not by aliens, not by secret cults, but by something far more ordinary, your government. Every headline that makes you angry, every law you silently accepted, every enemy you were told to hate. What if all of it was part of a design? No, this isn't about conspiracy. This is about psychology, mass manipulation, and a playbook that's been perfected over centuries. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how governments around the world, not just yours, influence millions without them ever realizing it. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why most people never question the system they were born into. The illusion of choice. Let's start with something simple. You wake up, you check the news, a scandal, a war, a trending outrage. You scroll through posts, watch a reel, read a tweet, and you think, I'm just staying informed. But here's the truth. You didn't choose the information. The algorithm did. The government didn't need to ban your thoughts. It just needed to flood your feed with their version of reality. That's how manipulation works now. Not by silencing you, but by distracting you. In a world drowning in information, the one who controls your attention controls your mind. And if you think you're immune, that's part of the trick. The system thrives when you believe you're too smart to fall for it. 2. Divide and distract. Have you ever noticed how everything seems to be an argument now? Left versus right, rich versus poor, vaxxed versus unvaxxed, woke versus traditional. You're not just watching the news. You're being pushed into a team, a side, a label. And here's the trick. The more you identify with one side, the easier it is to make you hate the other. Why does that matter? Because while you're busy fighting your neighbor, you're not watching the people in power. Division is the oldest tool in the book. Empires didn't survive by making peace. They survived by making us blame each other. The outrage you feel, it's real, but where you aim it, that's often decided for you. And once you're angry, tribal, and convinced the other side is the enemy, you'll beg for control. You'll vote for censorship. You'll accept surveillance just to feel safe. That's not unity. That's engineered chaos. And the more chaotic we are, the more predictable we become. 3. Fear is the currency of control. If there's one emotion that makes people easier to control than anger, it's fear. Fear turns rational minds into obedient ones. Fear makes you trade freedom for safety, and governments know this. That's why the news cycle never sleeps. There's always a new threat. Are these issues real? Yes. But are they used? Absolutely. Because when you're afraid, you don't ask questions. You wait for instructions. You don't challenge authority. You depend on it. And every time they rescue you from the fear they fed you, they gain more trust, more power, more control. Fear makes censorship look responsible. It makes surveillance look necessary. It makes obedience feel patriotic. But here's the chilling part. Once a population is conditioned by fear, they'll police themselves, not because they were forced, but because they forgot how to think outside of fear. 4. Education or indoctrination. From the moment you're old enough to sit still, you're placed in a system, a classroom, a bell, a hierarchy, and you're told it's for your future. But let's ask the real question. Is the purpose of school to educate or to condition? You're taught to memorize, not to question, to obey, not to innovate. History is filtered, philosophy is simplified, ethics are outsourced to authority. You don't learn how to think, you learn what to think. Sit down, raise your hand, repeat the answer. That's not learning, that's programming. And by the time you leave school, you've been shaped, quietly, into someone who follows the rules, even when the rules don't make sense. The most dangerous thing you can do in a manipulated society is ask why. And yet that's the one skill they never truly teach. 5 bread, circuses, and the illusion of freedom. The Roman Empire had a tactic. When the people got restless, they gave them 2 things: bread and circuses. Food to keep them alive, entertainment to keep them numb. Sound familiar? Today, we've just upgraded the circus. Streaming platforms, TikTok reels, 24/7 content, endless dopamine loops, designed to keep you scrolling, laughing, raging, but never thinking. They don't need to hide the truth. They just bury it. You feel free because you can choose what to watch, what to buy, what to wear. But the freedom to consume is not the same as the freedom to question. And while you're busy upgrading your phone, the systems of control are upgrading you. The scariest kind of prison is the one that feels like comfort, and most people are already home. 6 controlled opposition, the illusion of rebellion. Not every rebel is a threat. Some are just part of the script. If you can't silence the revolution, lead it. When people start to question, the system doesn't panic. It adapts. It creates safe rebels, loud voices that challenge just enough to gain followers, but never enough to change the game. Political parties that oppose each other, but still serve the same interests. Protests that feel powerful until you realize the cameras were invited. Movements that start with truth, but get bought, sponsored, branded, and diluted. This is controlled opposition. And it's not conspiracy, it's strategy. The system doesn't fear outrage, it thrives on it. Because as long as your rage stays inside the lines, the illusion of change can keep you chasing your tail forever. 7 language is a weapon, rewriting reality with words. Words don't just describe reality, they create it. That's why language is one of the most powerful tools of control. Don't call it war, call it peacekeeping. Don't say civilian deaths, say collateral damage. Don't say censorship, say protecting the public. This isn't accidental, it's engineered. Because if you can't describe a thing clearly, you can't think about it clearly. And if you can't think about it clearly, you can't fight it. Orwell called it Newspeak, a language designed to shrink the range of thought, and we're living in it. Control the words, control the world. 8 economic dependence, the invisible leash. You think you're free because you can buy things. But real control doesn't always look like a cage. Sometimes it looks like a paycheck. Economic dependence is one of the most effective and invisible forms of control. Keep people just comfortable enough to stay quiet, but just desperate enough to keep obeying. This is why the system runs on debt, credit cards, student loans, mortgages. They're not just financial tools, they're psychological chains. Because when you're in debt, you don't take risks, you don't speak out, you don't step out of line. You keep your head down, you keep working, you keep consuming. And every so often they'll dangle a raise, a bonus, a tax cut, just enough to keep you running. It's not slavery, it's economic domestication. You're not in chains, you're in a loop. 9 surveillance and social pressure. The eyes are everywhere. In the past, control meant soldiers in the street. Today, it's cameras on every corner, microphones in every room, and tracking in every pocket. But here's the clever twist. You signed up for it. You pay monthly for the device that listens to you. You share your face, your location, your thoughts for likes. And the result? A world where you don't need to be punished to comply. You just need to feel like someone might be watching. This is the brilliance of modern control. It doesn't force obedience, it nudges it. And even more effective than government surveillance is social surveillance, when your friends become the enforcers, when your family reports you for your own good, when stepping out of line means losing your job, your reputation, your safety. You'll self-censor, not because you were silenced, but because you learned to silence yourself. 10 manufactured enemies, the perpetual war. Every system of control needs an enemy, someone to blame, something to fear, because fear unites. And when a population is divided, nothing brings them together like a common threat. Sometimes it's a nation, sometimes it's a race, sometimes a religion, a class, a belief system. It doesn't matter who the enemy is, only that there is one. That way, people don't ask why they're struggling. They just focus on who to blame. And the same power structure that created the crisis shows up wearing the cape. War becomes peace. Hatred becomes patriotism. The enemy may change names, but the tactic stays the same. Keep people afraid, keep them divided, and they'll never look up long enough to see who's pulling the strings. Wake up. The real revolution is inner. Now you've seen the architecture of control. It wasn't just the media or the fear. It was the debt, the surveillance, the enemies you were told to hate, the games you were told to play, the choices you were given that were never really yours. And no, this isn't just your government. This is the blueprint, refined by empires, perfected by democracies, exported through algorithms. And if it's everywhere, then escape doesn't start outside, it starts within. Because the most powerful rebellion is awareness. When you stop believing everything you're told, when you stop fearing everything they say you should, when you start asking, observing, disconnecting, that's when the machine begins to crack. Not through riots, but through realization. Not with violence, but with vision. The real revolution isn't in the streets. It's in the quiet choice to reclaim your mind. They can control the system, but they can't control a mind that's awake.